There are three types of bow and arrow stances: the neutral bow, forward bow, and reverse bow. They all serve useful purposes and should be added to your reservoir of knowledge. Why the name bow and arrow? The bow and arrow stance was named because of the positioning of the stance. As you will notice in the graphic, when a Chinese bow is superimposed on a forward bow stance, they are almost identical. The forward or bent leg forms part of the bow, and the rear or stiff leg represents the arrow. Neutral bow and arrow stance. The neutral bow is a strong stance and presents a small target. Consequently, the neutral bow is a good stance for sparring or when engaged in actual combat. It is also an important stance when executing your forms and self-defense techniques. Notice how the neutral bow places the rear hip closer to the front than the fighting horse. This is a crucial point of difference. It allows faster use of the rear arm and leg. The feet are pointed more toward the front and are parallel with one another instead of pigeon-toed. The knees are still forced out and the weight rests equally on both feet. Although the feet are placed on either side of the center line, they point toward the front, facing the line of sight or your opponent. In comparison, although the fighting horse gives you distinct defensive advantage, it limits your ability to retaliate effectively. While the neutral bow is not as protective, it is effective and much more versatile when employing defensive and offensive tactics. Analytical study of the neutral bow. Front view. Position your arms so the right arm covers the upper region and the left arm the middle region. Your feet should be properly placed on either side of the line of sight. Left heel to the left of the line and the right toe to the right of the line. Have your head and eyes face the line of sight. Since the body is almost sideways, it presents a small target. Knees are forced out. The feet are pointed more toward the front and are parallel to each other. Side view. Keep your head erect. Keep your knees flexible. Distribute your weight equally on both feet. Keep the toe of your right foot to the right of your line of sight. Keep the heel of your left foot to the left of your line of sight. Position your arms so that one is high and the other low. Make sure this policy is adhered to when the arms are switched. Keep your back straight. Finding the proper dimensions. To find the proper width of a right neutral bow, have the heel of your left foot line up with the toe of your right foot. Depth can be found by dropping the knee of your left leg so that it is in line with the heel of your right foot. You should be on the ball of your left foot when you plant your knee. Once your width and depth are determined, have both knees bend naturally and the proper height will be arrived at automatically. Data summation of the neutral bow. Foot position, one foot ahead of the other, utilizing the toe-heel relationship to determine the proper depth. Both feet should run parallel to each other and at an angle of 45 degrees from your opponent. Weight distribution, 50-50. Reason and purpose. Gives you greater mobility, allowing you to retreat or advance with ease. The forward bow and arrow stance is primarily used in a stance change to extend the reach of the rear arm and increase its power. The most important contribution of the forward bow is as a stance change between neutral bows. The form and smoothness of this sequence will largely determine the effectiveness of the rear arm. Since retreating with a forward bow is difficult and exposure to vulnerable areas is more pronounced, this stance is intended to be transitory. A forward bow can be formed from your neutral bow by rotating your rear hip so that it is even with your forward hip. Your front leg does not change, but your rear leg becomes almost stiff as it pushes your rear hip forward. Your rear foot, while still flat, pivots on the ball as the heel is thrust back to a position where the toes point mostly forward. The ground is literally used as a launching pad to push, brace, and support your action. Your weight shifts more to your front leg, but the tendency to lean with your shoulders or stiffen your forward leg must be avoided. To check your form, observe yourself in a mirror. The movement is a rotation of your waist while your back remains straight. Keep your shoulders square and parallel to the mirror, but do not raise your head nor move forward. Analytical study of the forward bow. Front view. Anchor your right elbow. The position of your front leg does not change. It is identical to your right neutral bow. Your head does not raise up, nor does it move forward. Have both of your arms in position to guard your vital areas. Keep your left foot and leg parallel to the line of sight. Top view. Make sure your hips and shoulders are parallel to each other. Focus your eyes straight ahead. Have the heel of your left foot anchored to the ground. Make sure your shoulders are square and parallel to the wall in front of you. Keep your right hand high. Position your left hand low. Make sure your forward or right knee is forced out. Have your right foot turned in. Do not lean forward or back with your shoulders. Keep your rear or left hip forward. Your left leg is kept rigid in this stance. Keep your left foot flat. The toes of your left foot should point forward. Finding the proper dimensions. Finding the proper dimensions for the forward bow are simple. First, find the dimensions of your right neutral bow. Once this has been determined, have the heel of your left foot thrust back by pivoting on the ball of that foot. Push your left hip forward as you stiffen your left leg so that both hips line up with each other. Upon completing this adjustment, all dimensions, width, depth, and height, will be established automatically. Data summation of the forward bow. Foot position, one foot is ahead of the other, with your right foot at a 45-degree angle from your opponent and your left foot at a 90-degree angle from your opponent. Basically, a toe-heel, heel-knee relationship. Weight distribution, 60-40. 60% of your weight is on the right or forward leg, and 40% is on your left or rear leg. Reason and purpose. Gives you greater reach, enhances your power, and allows you a greater foundation with which to brace yourself. It is useful as a leg check, buckle, or break. Reverse bow and arrow stance. The reverse bow and arrow stance is essentially the same as a forward bow, with the head and shoulders turned to the back. As a stance change, the reverse bow serves three primary purposes. One, it creates distance by pivoting away. Two, rotation can increase the power of certain strikes. And three, as the leg stiffens, it can buckle or sweep. Analytical study of the reverse bow, front view. Have your rear arm protect your upper region. Have your forward arm protect your lower region. Keep your rear knee bent. Keep your forward leg stiff. top view. Make sure your shoulders are parallel to your line of sight. Keep your forward foot flat. The foot position is the same as a forward bow, with the exception that the head and eyes are turned into the opposite direction. Side view. Have your head and eyes turned toward the opposite direction after establishing a forward bow. Keep your forward arm low. Thrust your heel out and then anchor it to the ground. Keep your rear arm high. Keep both feet flat. Finding the proper dimensions. Again, find the proper dimensions for a neutral bow. However, form the neutral bow in the opposite direction of your intended line of sight. Immediately execute a forward bow while facing the same direction. Upon completion of the forward bow, have your head turn in the opposite direction, toward your intended line of sight. This final movement will automatically place you in a reverse bow with all dimensions, width, depth, and height, adjusted to your own specifications. Data summation of the reverse bow. Foot position. One foot is ahead of the other, with the forward foot at a 90-degree angle, heel out, from your opponent, and the rear foot at 45 degrees, heel out. This stance is the opposite, or reverse, of a forward bow with your head and eyes turned toward your opponent. Weight distribution, 40-60. 40% of your weight is on the forward leg and 60% on the rear leg. Reason and purpose. Allows one greater distance although remaining in place. Give greater power using opposing force. Is useful as a leg check, buckle, or break.